Good morning, evening, whatever time it is for you to everybody. Welcome to Storytime 79, our Valentine's Day, slightly disorganized Valentine's Day episode, which is in fact already extremely disorganized. We've had a few child interruptions already, but that is luckily the theme of today. We've got the sicky cloth on my shoulder and the curlers that didn't quite get time to come out and some of the decorations that are not really quite up. And that's what happens to our character as well. So all really quite appropriate. So our other themes today, we had overall themes that came from our patrons, which were paradox, barbecue area, as in that style of story, so kind of flipped roles story, time management issues, hashtag parent life, children's funny early words and new chapters. And some specific items that I was asked to include were a hole in a rainwater tank, how to weed standing up. I believe what Andrew actually said was weed at the time. I said, oh, that's one for Robin, how to weed. But I believe I misheard. I believe it was to weed. So that's what I've actually included. Trying to get around to putting up or taking down decorations, an animal romance, teapots with no lids and the associated saying there's a lid for every pot, how do crumbs get into drawers, and I added myself funny child interruptions to meditation. And our character requests were for Albie and for some dogs. So I've selected a dog who is a contemporary of Albie, which is Noodles, who belongs to Jen and Cassie at the farm, and he's a Great Dane. So he's a bit of fun when he gets on your lap. So our story's called A New Chapter of Everything. Noodles the Great Dane stretched himself along the length of the sofa in the unfamiliar lounge room, enjoying a moment of quiet to trim his nails and clean between his toes. The humans came in, the puppy human all covered in human food, and the adult human running after her, and tried to climb up and sit beside him. No, bad humans, off the sofa, down, he barked, to no immediate avail. The small human sat down almost on top of his head and poked at his face, making a noise like, "I." Noodles stood up and shoved her off the sofa with his nose. Down, he told her again in his best cross-barking voice. No poking. The male human told Noodles to sit, a thing that humans sometimes seem to do when they got ahead of their station. So Noodles made a growly, grumbly noise of disapproval at him and moved to the beanbag on the floor, curling up and returning to his daily manicure. Perhaps the best approach was to ignore the humans, rather than reacting to their misbehaviour. They didn't seem to respond well to being told off. Albie claimed the space Noodles had vacated to sit beside Dina and clean yogurt off her nose and eyebrows with a damp cloth. Alice said damp cloths were more effective and less wasteful than tissues or paper towels. So far, Albie seemed to be accumulating small piles of wetness, covered in food or snot all over the house, which he didn't have time to collect and wash, and now to be running out of cloths to use. He was unsure how Alice managed to replenish the cloths. When Alice had asked about going on the Outback film shoot, and Albie had agreed to taking some time as a stay-at-home dad, he had had the impression that cleaning up Dina's messes was one of the easy parts of her care. Alice certainly made it look easy, but Dina seemed to require his full attention at all times, so he wasn't sure when he was supposed to take his eyes off her to wipe the floor or throw all the cloths in the washing machine. As for the poopy nappy bucket, he'd given up on the reusables on day 2 and condemned the nappies already in the bucket to long-term fermentation. When Jen and Cassie had asked him to look after Noodles, he'd not commenced his term as primary parent. And since Noodles seemed to be a reasonably self-sufficient dog, he had assumed dog uncle would also be a role he could take in his stride. After all, Albie prided himself on being everything. The trouble was, these new roles he'd taken on seemed to eclipse all the other things he normally considered himself to be. He did not have time to play role-playing games, cook elaborate meals, go trampolining, or attend queer meetups. He did not have the alertness to read his philosophy books by the time his parenting duties were done, and he could not go into his home office while Dina was awake because she wanted to pull all the cables and press all the buttons and take down all of his plant power succulents from their shelf, tipping out a large portion of their soil. The one other thing he hoped he could continue to be was a good partner, and he'd bought an assortment of beautiful Valentine's Day decorations to put up for a belated date night when Alice returned. So far, he'd taken some pretty heart-shaped bunting out of the box and then had to put it back in again because Dina was wrapping it around her head and Noodles wanted to use it for a tug-of-war game. He hoped he could put the decorations up while Dina had her nap tomorrow, once Noodles had had a good walk to get his zoomies out as well. Noodles heaved a heavy sigh and got to his feet. The humans were clamoring at the door to be taken for a walk, waving their leads and making enthusiastic noises at him. He barked an all right at them and lumbered over to accept his end of the adult human's leash. He would have preferred to be in control of the puppy human's lead too, but it was difficult to explain this in simple enough terms for the humans to understand. It was easier to let the adult human hold it and hope that he would not let his puppy do anything too offensive to other dogs. The puppy human pulled on her lead as they left the house and then wanted to stop and pick things up off the ground all the way up the main street, making it difficult for Noodles to check the local news feeds by pulling away in different directions as they passed the posts and key bushes. He tugged on the adult human's lead, trying to influence the puppy's position indirectly, but this seemed to just make the adult human bark a lot and take up a lot of space on the path. After a lot more stops and starts than should have been necessary, they arrived at the walking path that led to the local meeting ground. Noodles' own humans liked to stand in a huddle and socialise with other humans while Noodles had his meetings at home, though there were far fewer dogs and humans there, so he hoped these temporary humans would do the same. When let off her lead, the puppy human raced off to the human enrichment space, but then seemed well occupied there. So Noodles turned his attention to the unfamiliar group of dogs that had gathered in the central grassed meeting area. And that's when he saw them. With sleek, dark, shiny curls and petite paws, the small black-haired beauty was probably considered by their humans, who didn't understand such things, to be male. But a swift butt sniff revealed to Noodles that this dog was anything but masculine and definitely not straight. He decided to boldly go for an ear nibble, leaving an accidental trail of his saliva on their head as he leaned down. By the time Albie prized Dina off the playground and Noodles off of the small spoodle he seemed to have taken a shine to, then prized Dina off the gate of the dog park and Noodles off a drop tub of noodles, it was well past when he should have had Dina's lunch ready. He hurried both dog and child home, to the extent that it is possible to hurry a 1-year-old and a Great Dane when one only has 2 hands. Dina was sure to be worn out after lunch, so Albie hoped to get a chance to do the Valentine's decorations then. While Albie was trying to get the key in the lock, Dina started trying to peer through the fence slats to the side garden. Noodles lay down on the front veranda so that he was half on top of Albie's foot. Stay in the front yard, Dina, Albie warned, since it had been impossible to latch the gate with a lead in each hand and assorted stuff of Dina's wedged under his armpits. We're going inside for lunch now. Dina continued to bob her head up and down, looking through various gaps between the wooden panels. Drip! Drip! She announced with enthusiasm. What's dripping, Dina? Or do you mean the tap at the park where we got Noodles his drink? Albie tried to peer through the small spaces Dina was managing to see through. He couldn't see anything. The trouble was, when Dina said one of her new words, she was rarely mistaken about what she'd seen or heard. Drip, Dina insisted. All right, Albie sighed. Let's go and have a look at what you mean, just in case it's something that isn't supposed to drip. Noodles, come in the garden. He opened the side gate. Noodles gave Albie a look, as though he thought him extremely stupid, but after a few moments of staring at him, stood up with a big sigh and came through the gate. Albie was exasperated to find that Dina was, as ever, not wrong. There seemed to be a small hole in the side of the rainwater tank, and it had already leaked out a little puddle onto the dry earth below. Right, he said, hoisting Dina up onto his hip. We'd better fix that before we lose any more water. Well done for spotting it. I'll try and grab some stuff once we have your lunch ready, but let's get you a sandwich first. I can't be your chef and a rainwater tank repair person at the same time. Dina tilted her head at him. Everything, she said, having heard him use the term often enough, and nonplussed as to why he could not do all things concurrently, as the word implied. Albie sighed. Yes, I know I say that, but some things are just impossible to combine. I'm allowed to be everything by being each thing in turn. Dina gave him an unconvinced look and ran into the house. While the humans were playing with the puddle of water they'd found in the yard, Noodles set about creating some extra human enrichment around the place. He dug several large holes in the areas where the humans liked to put the plants in a certain order for fun, and flattened some netting that was propped up on a frame. Then he chewed on the hose and dragged it around until it was tangled into aesthetically pleasing knots with spray holes in them, and tipped water from some tubs that had been left out onto the plants the humans seemed not to water, which were scattered around in a haphazard way throughout the yard. Satisfied that he'd given them lots to do, Noodles decided to see whether his crush was still at the park. The adult male human had dragged him away mid-conversation, which was very rude, and meant that he'd only learnt the other dog's name and favourite sniffing spots, and hadn't had time to inquire where in town they lived, or whether he might see them again if he could convince his temporary humans to go on the same walk. The delicate black-haired beauty was known to their humans as Soot, but actually their name was Rowan, and they knew a lot about tracking lost balls and helping humans improve the scent profiles of their homes. The adult human had been polite enough to leave the front gate unlatched, so Noodles didn't have to bark orders at him this time, before slipping back out and returning the way they'd come. Albie made Dina a hasty lunch of baked beans, toast, grated cheese, and chopped tomatoes, and himself an even hastier one of margarine and Dina's leftovers on toast. While Dina ate and rubbed bean sauce into her hair, he searched the kitchen drawers and under the sink for something that might serve as a plug for the rainwater tank hole, his head bobbing up above the counter every few seconds to check on her and making Dina laugh. After about 20 minutes of this, he located a lot of crumbs which had made their way by mysterious means into cupboards and drawers, a teapot with the lid missing, and some putty stuff which he was pretty sure was the sort of thing he needed to do. He put the putty by the side door and returned to clean Dina up and collect thrown baked beans from under the dining room dresser. Right, let's see if we can fix the drip, and then we can have a story and see if you want a nap, he told her. Mix, Dina shouted. Maybe after we sort the rainwater tank out, Albie replied. We can't bring the beater into the garden, and I can't hold that for you while I'm putting putty into the hole. Dina glared. Everything, she reminded him, with a look of contempt. Yes, I know. Albie scooped her up onto one hip and picked up the putty in his other hand, along with an implement that might have been meant for spreading it, and if it wasn't, was about to be sacrificed. He opened the door with a nifty combination of nose and toe that he'd mysteriously developed in the past week, and propped the pot of putty on the rainwater tank stand so he could lever up the lid with one hand. Butter, said Dina. No, not butter. I know it looks a bit like peanut butter, but this is special gluey stuff to seal up the hole. You can't eat it. Anyway, you just had lunch. Albie adjusted his stance to a tactful lean to avoid Dina reaching the pot, and made a haphazard attempt to smear the putty into the hole, which was somehow successful. After a short bit of smoothing and spreading, he put the lid on the pot and stood back to admire his handiwork, satisfied at having achieved something. Then he looked around him. What a mess! Those weeds have grown far more than they ought to in a week. And look at these holes! Noodles, you menace! Menace, said Dina. Yeah, replied Albie, that's right. He began to make a half-hearted, one-handed effort at pulling out some of the weeds, leaning sideways and remaining standing instead of crouching down. It was the sort of thing you'd be told off for by a health and safety officer at a gardening job. But Albie was not a professional gardener, and it was impossible to get back up with Dina in one arm if he crouched for too long, without either falling back down on his bottom or having Dina escape to run around in her white socks in the mud. Albie conquered a few weeds and used his foot to fill in one of the holes before Dina got wriggly. Can you sit nicely, please, Dina, he said, as his shoe caught in the garden hose, which was for some reason extremely tangled. He plonked down in the puddle that the rainwater tank had made, just managing to swing Dina around to his front, in time to avoid splattering her in mud too. From this vantage point, mud slowly sinking through his hiking trousers, Dina giggling in his face, Albie looked around the child at the full view of the garden. Where's Noodles? He asked. Out, replied Dina. Do you mean couch? Yeah, he probably is on the couch. Albie got up, keeping Dina out of the mud by a combination of sheer strength and making her be an aeroplane. They zoomed inside, Albie managing to take off his muddy trousers just inside the door with a feat of lopsided acrobatics. Noodles was not on the couch. He was nowhere to be found. Noodles and Rowan made their third circuit of the meeting ground, tails up like flags and noses nudging into one another's ears. Rowan was a local, they said, coming here most days. Noodles was determined to make the most of his time in the neighbourhood and spend every second he could with them. His usual home was out of town on a farm, where he had plenty of room to run, but few chances to meet anybody new, let alone someone as special as Rowan. Rowan's humans were older and more sedate than either the temporary ones Noodles had now or his usual humans. They were sitting down on one of the hard couches nearby, murmuring to each other and looking at the weird flat images on paper that seemed to entertain them for hours. On an ordinary day, Noodles would have liked to shred the bunched paper into long ribbons for fun, but today he had much better things to do, and would have continued to have if his own temporary humans hadn't rounded the corner from the walking path and come running across the grass towards him, barking at the top of their lungs. Be quiet, he barked back. He'd never known humans with such a short attention span. That garden enrichment should have lasted them days. And now here they were, about to drag him away from Rowan for the second time today because they couldn't entertain themselves for more than half an hour. Noodles fumed. I'm so sorry, he told Rowan. Your humans are so well behaved and mine have no respect at all. Can I see you again, even though I come with such rude company? Don't worry, replied Rowan. I'll follow you home so I know where you're staying. My humans could do with a longer walk anyway. Then I can visit you when the humans are more settled. Noodles reclaimed and other dog guardians apologised to, Albie headed back home once again with child and dog in tow. The good thing about the dog retrieval episode was Dina must be completely worn out by now, so she should have a good nap in which Albie could put the wash on, clean up the high chair, plan something nutritious for dinner, and perhaps get to the Valentine's decorations if he got through all that efficiently. He got Dina a snack of mandarin segments and cheese and sat her down with a favourite book. When the story was finished, Dina's eyelids were drooping a bit, so Albie moved her to lie down on the mat they'd been sitting on. She sat up again. I think you need a nap, Dean, he told her, patting his lap in case she wanted to lie back down in a more cuddly position. Dina looked at him with a frowny face. Running. Albie shook his head. No, not right now, because running isn't very restful, is it? And this is meant to be your rest time. Sleepy run. Albie tilted his head. I'm not sure those words can go together. Everything, Dina told him firmly, then got up and ran off down the hallway. Albie made a few further attempts at initiating nap time, but Dina wanted to do hallway chasing games, dancing, and throwing balls in the living room, and eventually he had to accept defeat, work out the simplest possible dinner, and settle for doing activities with some capacity for watching a child at the same time. When Dina was somewhat calmer and playing with toys in the living room, he decided a meditation would be helpful for his headset for the rest of the afternoon. He set a guided one playing on his phone, since it would definitely not be possible to do the practice without instruction to keep him on track. Just tune into the space around you. Any sounds, any smells, the guide said. Dina launched a ball of Play-Doh onto the couch. It landed with a soft whumph and a cry of "Throw!" from the child. Noodles farted and then started having a scratch that involved bumping the fleshy part of his rump against the couch repeatedly with a soft and somewhat unpleasant whump, whump, whump. And just scanning down through the body, noticing any particular sensations. "Lips!" Dina exclaimed, jabbing Albie's mouth with one sharp-nailed finger as he exhaled. "Yes," said Albie, doing his best to continue the body scan. "I have lips." Dina climbed into his lap and lifted up his shirt. "Boobs." "No, Daddy doesn't have boobs." Albie kept his voice soft in the hope that Dina would remain calmish. "And now just bringing your attention to the breaths." Dina did some dramatic blowing in imitation of Albie's earlier deep breaths. There was a scratching sound from the sliding door, and Albie looked up to find that the Spoodle, who'd been running around with Noodles at the park, was standing outside and appeared to be unaccompanied. The male human let Rowan in, showing much better manners than earlier. Noodles wasn't sure what the difference was, but he wasn't about to question the better behaviour. He and Rowan snuggled up on one of the beanbags on the floor, Rowan balancing across the top of the bag on Noodles' back, and had a nap. A little while later, they were poked and prodded into going back to the park, much to their frustration. A Labrador complained about the small human, saying she nearly poked his eye out and should be on a lead. But no setbacks could change the fact that Rowan now knew where Noodles was staying. They found their way back to visit again the next day, and the day after that, enjoying a series of dates that always ended with the humans needing attention, but in between the interruptions were a perfect oasis of companionship. During their third date, Rowan's humans turned up at the door. "Oh, drat," Rowan sighed. "How did they find us? I'm sorry. I should probably take them home. It's their dinner time. That's probably why they're looking for me. Can I visit you again?" "Of course," Noodles told them, with a lick on their nose. "But I'm only staying here for a while. I'm not sure how many more walks until my normal humans come back from human enrichment camp." "We should be together while we can then," Rowan said, with a determined shake of their shoulders. The humans all started socializing, which gave Noodles and Rowan a few extra minutes of snuggles, followed by an extra 15 minutes of running around the yard when Rowan's humans went outside to leave. Albie and Dina finally waved goodbye to Keith and Ellery, the owners of the Spoodle, at 5:30 in the evening. Albie had the sinking feeling of being so far off Dina's schedule, he might as well prepare to stay awake until tomorrow morning. Nevertheless, he carried on with her bath and steamed frozen vegetables in the microwave to go with oven chips and sausages hastily fried while she marched toys around the kitchen floor. The sausages had added salt in them, but Albie hoped it was balanced out by the fact Dina would probably get some protein and would mostly eat peas anyway. At 9 p.m, Dina at long last fell asleep on the couch, reading her favourite book for the 4th time, and Albie carried her to her cot. He returned to the hallway and looked at the laundry. The pile of cloths thrown on the floor, along with Dina's food-covered clothes and the nappy bucket, looked back at him. But a wash took an hour to run, so Albie closed the door. He looked at the kitchen. The dishes and food-smeared high chair narrowed their eyes in his direction, and Noodles licked his lips and let out a loud bark. Albie gave the high chair a wipe with a wet paper towel and then stared at the dishes. Then he got Noodles a snack and stared at the dishes again. Then he got a beer. After a few moments of sipping beer and staring at the dishes, he went into the living room, opened the box of Valentine's Day decorations, and held his breath in case they rustled too much and woke Dina. He pulled out the string of bunting. He stood on a chair and fixed one end of it to the top of the bookcase. Then he walked across the couch to fix the other end to the wall in the corner with blue tack. It held while Albie looked at it. He got down from the couch. The bunting fell down and hung by its bookcase end. Albie went to grab it again, tripped over a toy elephant and bashed his knee on the bookshelf. Dina wailed. Noodles watched the male human with curiosity as he pulled what seemed like useless items out of a box and tried to attach them to the inside of his home. It was really rather charming how he seemed to be trying to make it look nice, though as Rowan said, the whole place needed rescenting. Noodles couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for the human when the thing he was trying to stick onto the house fell down and the small human interrupted. There was something about the behaviour that told Noodles the human was trying to please his mate, and right now, that was something he could definitely relate to. He decided to try to help a bit, and when the adult human went off to comfort his puppy, Noodles started taking everything else out of the box for him and spreading it round the room. He wasn't sure what the point of most of the things was, but he thought they looked pretty fun strewn about the place. The human barked a bit when he came back in, so perhaps the arrangement wasn't what he'd had in mind. But Noodles felt happy in the knowledge that he'd done his best to understand and be kind. The next morning, the humans wanted to walk to the park again. Noodles was tired, but the thought of meeting Rowan made him hurry to get the humans onto their leads. At the first news post, there was a sent message from Rowan. Really like you. Sorry about my embarrassing human family. Hope to meet at the meeting ground again. We'll come over later. Noodles hurried to follow the humans as they tugged on their leads. At the park, Rowan rushed up to greet him, yapping a welcome and licking his chin. Noodles thought even if he had to go back to looking after the humans at the farm tonight, and he couldn't see Rowan again, this holiday had been worth it, in spite of the annoying humans he was responsible for on this trip. He wouldn't give up this time with Rowan for anything, even peace and quiet from being poked in the eye by the human puppy. If I come to stay again, I'll leave you messages, and we can meet here or at my temporary human's house, he promised. Alice arrived home the following afternoon, while Dina was in her high chair, smearing pasta sauce across the table and shouting, "Whack, whack!" because Albie was engaged in trying to swat a fly. Noodles was on the couch in the living room with the spoodle, who'd shown up at the door again. Albie had rung to tell Keith and Ellery that their dog was here, but they said it was fine and they would come by and get him in an hour when they'd finished at bingo. Albie didn't have the heart to insist they came sooner, even though it really was very inconvenient to have an additional dog to contend with. The Valentine's bunting hung by one end from the bookcase, and the other decorations were stuffed back into the box in a haphazard pile. There was a piece of sausage wedged under the fridge, which even the dogs had given up trying to extract. "I'm sorry," Albie told Alice miserably, as she joined him at the sink and produced a clean cloth like a magician to wipe up Dina's mess. "I was trying to decorate and set us up a date night, but Noodles seems to be having a better date than I've managed to prepare. He picked up this other dog at the park a few days ago, and they keep turning up. I don't know how you get the washing done. I am everything, but this was too many everythings." Alice chuckled. "Yeah, that's normal. We can work together and put up the decorations once Dina's asleep. How are you, Dina Diva?" "Sleepy," said Dina, leaning her head down into her pasta bowl. Replied Albie. "I wonder why that would be. We had a long walk this morning, didn't we, because of Noodles' new friend. What do you think of the other dog? They're cute, aren't they?" "Small," Dina replied in a tone of disdain, looking through the kitchen doorway at the two dogs together with an expression of contempt. Yes, Soot is a lot smaller than Noodles, but that's okay," Albie tried. Alice made a trying not to laugh noise. Noodles licked Rowan's ears, hoping they weren't listening to the humans, who were definitely talking about them in a very disrespectful tone. At least they hadn't demanded to go out again, though, and Rowan's humans hadn't arrived to clamour for their attention. He and Rowan had had a very relaxing afternoon, snuggling on the couch and doing a little bit of re-scenting work. Noodles suspected that the arrival of the female human meant his normal humans would be back soon too. He tried not to think about saying goodbye to Rowan, though he had to admit having some fondness for his own humans and somewhat looking forward to seeing them. It was funny how attached one could get to them. While the two adult humans put the decorative objects up and the small human had a sleep, Noodles and Rowan did some decorating of their own in the garden to give the humans something to entertain themselves with tomorrow. If they like it enough, we might be able to go to the lake and have a swim together, Rowan suggested hopefully. But Noodles knew better than to get too excited for plans that were a day away. Sure enough, just as the puppy human woke up and called for attention, there was the sound of more humans at the door. Noodles and Rowan went inside to find both Rowan's humans and Noodles' usual humans in the hallway. Though it wasn't the best news for them that Noodles' humans had turned up, neither of them wanted the humans to feel unloved, so they ran around all of their legs and jumped on them with kisses. There was some socializing among the humans involving cups of hot liquid, which Noodles thought was a dangerous human habit, and then all of the ones who didn't live here stood up at the same time, probably wanting to be taken home for food, Noodles thought. But when they got outside, the humans opened Noodles' human's car and pointed both dogs inside. "I think they want you to come over to the farm," Noodles exclaimed, giving Rowan an excited head kiss that wet them from neck to nose. "I guess they like you." Rowan's humans followed them to Noodles' usual house, and Noodles got to take Rowan swimming in the dam, which was even better than the lake at the park. "Maybe we'll be able to visit each other more often than we thought." Rowan gave Noodles a lick under the chin. "Your house is great, and your normal humans seem very calm and friendly. You've got them very well trained." 4 months later, Jen, Cassie, Alina and Diver came over to Alice and Albie's for their annual winter solstice celebrations. "Oh," Dina exclaimed with a bounce as they came in. "You have Valentine stuff up. Is it an everything at once party this year?" She looked around in search of other kinds of decorations and extra people, setting down her solstice cake in its tin on the coffee table. Alice looked at Albie. "No, I put them up for a short film I'm making for next Valentine's Day." "Oh," Jen grabbed her phone, patting the couch beside her for Alice to sit and look at something. "I saw an ad looking for people to work on a queer indie Valentine's film to enter in the local film festival. You should apply." Alice sat and looked at the ad and made noises of interest, though Albie gave her a raised eyebrows look. Dina wriggled down from Albie's arms and went over to a box in the corner. She pulled out a decorative string of dried orange pieces and pine cones and dragged it along the floor over to Alina. "Exhausting," she said, holding it out for inspection. "Oh, pine cones are exhausting?" Alina took the winter-themed garland and inspected it for an explanation. Albie gave a sheepish chuckle. "All right. The truth is, we haven't had the time or energy to take our decorations from our belated Valentine's date in February down, or put up the proper solstice ones. Please don't send Alice off on any more long film shoots in the outback. I don't think I'm enough everythings to be a single dad." Jen laughed. "Oh, that makes sense. If it makes you feel any better, our house looks solsticey, but it's actually because we still haven't taken down the Christmas stuff from last year, and that's without having a kid. Well, not a human kid, at least." Noodles jumped up on the couch at that moment and sat on Jen's lap, obscuring everything but the top of her head. He barked in her ear. "Oh," Jen poked her head out sideways past his chest. "Did you invite them?" "Of course," said Albie. "They'll be here any minute." Right on cue, there was a scratch at the door. Everyone looked up except Jen, whose vision was blocked by Noodles' bottom as he stood up on her and launched himself at the door. Outside sat a small, shiny black spoodle with a wintry weave of rowan twigs and bells around their collar. Ruff, they said. Happy solstice, Rowan, Albie grinned, opening the door so the spoodle could come in and jump all over Noodles. He'd started using the nickname when the dog kept bringing him rowan branches at the park, and somehow it seemed to fit. Rowan gave Noodles a thorough licking, then went back to the door. Ruff, ruff! Albie opened the door again to quizzical looks from everyone else. Rowan ran outside, went around the corner, and returned to the door with a long-stemmed red rose, running in to deposit it in Alice's lap. Happy very belated Valentine's Day, Alice, said Albie, moving to give her a kiss on the forehead. Aw, Cassie beamed squishily at them. We have lots of little celebrations today. Dina lay down on the floor, with her head on the side, looking under the TV cabinet. Lid, she proclaimed. Alice went to have a look. Oh, yes, it is a lid. She fetched a spatula from the kitchen with which to poke the object out. This looks like it belongs to Teapot. Albie got up and went to rummage under the kitchen sink, returning with the pot he'd found when searching for putty. This teapot? Shall we use it for chai? There were beams and nods. Dina rolled about with the dogs for a while as the tea was being made. Then she got up off the floor, climbed up into Cassie's lap, gave her a hug, and presented her with a chocolate, the origins of which were unclear. Oh, thank you. What's this for? Cassie asked, taking it anyway and hugging her back. Everything, replied Dina firmly, settling in between Cassie and Jen. I think Dina's found a new way of being everything, Alice said, with a smile at Albie. She raised her mug of chai. To new chapters of everything. To new chapters of everything, chorused the humans. Ruff, woof, chorused the dogs. And the White Cedar Flat family, with their many plus ones and additions, human and furry, big and small, sipped their winter celebration beverages under the February heart-shaped bunting in celebration of their togetherness, a bond which, though outwardly very changed since their first solstice celebration, was still everything.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay.
Who knows dogs and small children?
Well, any overall themes for our next story? Any thoughts?
We have to have voice projection in, because there've been a couple of people today very good at that.
Yes.
I would request every time we do it from the animals.
Yeah. That duality was quite fun, wasn't it? Yeah, that was quite fun, yeah.
But yeah, you can't do that every time.
You can't do that every time.
But
And
I request we do it again soon.
Okay.
You could have a cat one.
A cat one would be good.
Because, I mean, they'd be fans of cat ones, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Or a rabbit one. I always like
rabbit one. Get into the rabbit's head.
What cats have we had though? We haven't had many cats.
Broderick.
Well, there's Broderick. He's famous.
And who was the white one? Big white one in the fairy.
Fairy. The cat's called Fairy.
Fairy.
Yeah. Betty and Matt's cat they had when they were a bit younger.
If it's fairly close to Easter, the rabbit one would be good.
Rabbit one would be good.
Rabbit one.
And then you've got to have chocolate and eggs and things included.
You might get some good input from home for that one.
You could also plug in whatever pagan ritual goes with Easter, because I know the Christians have captured it, but there would have been something else there previously, because that's what they're.
So that would be Ostara, which is like spring equinox.
Yeah.
So in this hemisphere, it's not the right time of year for that, but it is on our side of the world.
Yeah.
Spring equinox could be part of it, and associated traditions.
You could wing off some of the personal vocabulary and have a beat theme too.
Beat.
Because
Things that go beep beep.
Things that go beep beep in the night, maybe, you know, that kind of you know, we were talking about our fridge going beep beep today. I went, I better clean this crisper this morning.
Yeah.
Because you two are going to be jet setters, the long haul flight could be an interesting inclusion because you've both
I guess.
experiences.
Yeah, how about resetting your circadian rhythm? That's
like jet lag.
Yeah. All associated things. You could be as wide as you like on that. To crummy food, to starvation while in flight.
But see, I also find where around the equinoxes, when the time of day is actually changing most rapidly, I find that affects my mood more than being in winter or being in summer is.
That's true.
So yeah, when the day is getting most rapid in the spring one, I sometimes get almost agitated. I'm like, today is so much longer than yesterday. There's too much sun. There's too much sun.
You know, and when we go to daylight saving, which kind of is around that time as well, accidents and you know, mistakes in surgery and things like that sort. And it's 1 hour's difference, you know. So that's
so effect of changes in like day length, time zone, season.
All those things,
Yeah, the wibbly wobbly timey one.
Losing a day, that's a weird one.
Oh, you losing a day would actually be a nice theme, and it wouldn't necessarily have to relate to flight, but that would be a good one.
So here's what happens to you.
Or sometimes it happens and you haven't been anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, when you think Saturday and no. Or
you have someone sort of saying like, I lost a day, and you know, people go, oh, did you fly back from Australia? No, you know, I just
yeah, we had a bad day yesterday.
I just didn't wake up or something. Yeah.
And actually, I don't know if anyone else ever had that thing where you're lying in bed and just relaxing, and then you go, oh my God, it's Monday, I work today. Oh my gosh, that's a scary, you know. Yeah. When work kind of fades into the background.
Not being very useful.
Put in not enough pockets. That would be a good one.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'll put that on the like specific things list. Not enough pockets. Any other things like that, like sort of odd little items, like, you know, a shoe with no laces, or
being able to find something. That's normal for
just not being able to find something, like the search for keys or something.
Minutes ago, though, like the worst one is the phone.
Yeah.
You put the phone down, and then you're out of the room.
Well, that goes with not enough pockets. Because when you don't have enough pockets, you can't put the thing in your pocket.
Okay.
So then,
and also, you could have too much black, because the inside of handbags is nearly always black.
Yes, and then you can't find your black phone, or
you can't find your purse because that's black.
Yeah,
you know, it's slid onto the floor of the car, and that's black carpet, so you can't find that. You know, that's happened to us. All of the above, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. This week, Dad asked me if I have any shiny stickers to put on his phone because it's black. Yes. And Mum's is also black.
Yes.
And she keeps picking up his phone. And like he'll ask and she'll be like, no, you've just lost it. And then he'll go find it in her room.
Actually, that's hilarious, because at the last musical Bards at the end of last year, which was in October, there's this chap, I've never met him before. He performed, he was fantastic. And he had his phone on the table. I was taking all the photos and little bits of video and things like that. And I picked up his phone and walked off with it. And he kind of lunged at me. Like, that's my phone. Whoops. We had exactly the same cover.
Yeah. That's right.
And the same model phone and everything. So that was, not my phone. The things that people get very personal about. And the phones are one of them. It's like an extension of you, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, my two things of general inspiration that I have no idea if you can use in Storytime are, number one, creepy sim lab dummies. So I've started teaching at Flinders Medical School, and we do it in the sim lab. And they have a fantastic calendar where all the people who have those, CPR dummies will try and put them in a funny tableau, take a picture and send it off and see if they can get in the calendar. So they've got ones of like the CPR dummies doing a water birth and like doing surgery on a real human. There's just a pile of extra limbs.
Oh no!
And one of them's on a date and proposing to a different sim lab dummy. And
Yeah.
they're so creepy and hilarious, and I love it. So yeah, something like that.
Yes.
The other thing that really amused me this week is, I don't know if you know about Elmo from Sesame Street, how he has a beef with pet rocks. It's a long-term thing where his friend Abby, I think it was, has a pet rock that she treats as if it's real. And so one time Elmo wanted the last biscuit and Abby was like, no, we have to give it to Rocco. And Elmo's like, Rocco's not real. Rocco can't eat, and gets really annoyed that this pet rock is interrupting the things that he wants. But then Taylor Swift this week released her new video for one of her new songs. And in it, she has a rock that she takes to the playground and a few other things. And Elmo tweeted, "How could you do this, Taylor?" So I don't know what you take from that, but
that would be fun.
Those are my two amusing things.
It's kind of
so there's somebody having a thing as a pet that's not normally a pet,
or just like that rivalry where you have a rivalry with something that's not even real.
That's fictional,
like a fictional rivalry.
Yes.
When fictional things interfere with people's lives,
with real life.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I had something a bit like that when I was a teenager and Lloyd was into cycling, and we used to sort of have his bike had a name. She was called Marion, as in Maid Marion.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, if I went past and bumped into the bike, I'd be like, Marion kicked me.
Yes.
It's being mean. Yeah. Any character requests?
Don't like me, so I understand.
Right, were there any character requests, and then we'll finish up.
Hangry would be another good one.
Hangry.
It's actually what's been just demonstrated out there.
Yes. That's a microphone. That's recording Mummy's sound. Don't unplug it, please, because otherwise everyone won't be able to hear Mummy on the recording anymore. Don't press that one.
Walls.
See, because I always like finding out more about things. I'm like, I now want to know about Rowan's owners.
That's a
yes. Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like they're like a older couple.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with older couples, Tegan.
No, it sounds like it's good.
No, just joking.
Like, apart from that initial trio, we don't have many older characters.
Yeah, you don't have a lot. We've got sort of the ones who are Betty's friends.
I wouldn't mind seeing them again. Barb.
Bryn and Barb.
And
Ella by extension. No. All right. Well, let's finish up there then with the recording. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening and putting up with little interruptions and things. And we'll see you at some point in a bit over a month, maybe a month and a half. We'll determine date and confirm in the chat.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Everybody.
You get a gold medal. Distance.